direction of prevailing wind, those sorts of things. Oftentimes, the decibel limit itself extends setbacks because we have to meet that 45 decibel limit. Okay, so there's all these things that, whether it's shadow flicker, whether it's the infrasound, all of those things will be part of our application when we make application to the county to get a permit. And there will be all sorts of engineering documentation to support why we think the proposed locations and everything makes sense, and meets all the zoning, and meets concerns that people have, and those sorts of things. Beyond that, we want to be a long-term community partner. We want to build something that is as advantageous to the community as possible. Yeah, there are a lot of people that don't like to look at them, but there's a lot of revenue that comes to the county, that comes to the schools, that comes to, and not just from tax revenue. There's people here that are building it. There's not revenue that comes.
The wind tower down there at Colum, North Dakota, they got some library books bought, and what was the other thing they got out of it? And that thing's been there 20-some years. They broke their school because they thought they were going to get money, and they didn't.
Well, I can't address that situation. The law is pretty clear on how the valuation is arrived at and how those tax revenues are allocated.
But why did we keep it such a secret from everybody? I mean, this has been going on for, what, 10 years? You guys have been involved since 2017. And I actually had to call you guys up in Minneapolis, figure out who you were, and call over there to find out was this coming through or not, because I'm in the footprint. And it's like, why didn't we just sit and have these meetings to begin with and get the community involved instead of keeping it all a big secret?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a secret. We're not hiding from anyone. The typical process of developing a project is, in the beginning, you talk to potential landowners that would be potential participants in a project.
But you say you don't know where the towers are going to go, and I can tell everyone here, if you go out to the FAA website, you can find all 120 towers that have been added out there, and you can use Google Earth and find every one of them. I know there's 120. It's out there. You guys added on the 14th this month. You added 11 more. The other ones you did last November 14th, I think it was. You added the big bunch. So you do know where you plan on putting them. It might not be final, but you have a good idea.
And that's exactly what I said earlier. When asked about the number of towers, I said we can't know exactly those numbers now because they will change. All right, I could give you a map today, and if I were to tell you, here's my map, here's where everything is going to go, I'm lying to you. All right, because that's going to change. We don't know exactly where everything's going to go, and if we have to, for all sorts of reasons, if we have to move one tower because of the soil type, soil boring says we can't put it here and we have to move it 100 feet, that could potentially impact several other towers, okay? And so what setbacks might end up being, what decibel changes might end up being, all of those things impact turbine locations. So we can give you our best guess, but at the end of the day, until we have all of the engineering work done, until we have all of the survey work done, until we have all of those things done, we don't know exactly where turbines are going to go. And I believe that's what I said in the beginning when someone asked about turbine. But then once you do all that
engineering, isn't it pretty much over? Because then you've invested all that money on that one tower, set it over here, so then if when someone finds out, there's nothing they can say.
Well, at that point in time, by that point in time, we have a permit. So sure, then we're going to build it where it's going to go. But we've also sat down with those landowners, and they know where it's going to go, and they're comfortable with the location of it, those who've signed leases with us.
I'm in the footprint, and I have no clue. I had to sit there and go on the defense out here, the offense out here, to figure out what was going on.
Have you signed a lease?
I'm in the footprint, but I don't have enough property to have a lease.
Okay.
For our intents and purposes,
yes.
Obviously, we're looking at setbacks here, and you said earlier, and this was based on a question that I asked a couple weeks ago when we were here, you say a mile is going to decimate the project. And we had said originally, or at least I did, I guess I don't speak for everybody here, that we would not be comfortable with less than a half a mile, nor would it have to be more than a mile. So I'm curious, based on the knowledge that you bring with you today, what would be your wish and desire to make it happen in Wells County? And frankly, it's not that we don't care about Eddy County, but we don't have any jurisdiction over Eddy County, so we're only interested in Wells County.
Yeah, so we took those proposed turbine locations where we think they might end up going and did this mile analysis from every proposed structure. And you know, if you drew a circle around every building at a mile, every structure that we had out there and every lease was covered by the 1 mile circle, right? When we cut it down to half a mile, only one of the proposed turbine sites fell within one of the half-mile circles, okay? So, and again, I just want to stress over and over and over again, those are proposed sites. It's all preliminary. Again, we don't know where they're going to go until the whole thing is engineered and we have a site plan that we're bringing to the county with our permit, right? But a half a mile, it appears, based on our initial analysis, that we would have to move one turbine if we had a half-mile setbacks. And some of those still may end up changing because of things like the decibel limits again. You know, there may be, there's sometimes issues, because shadow flicker is a real thing, and sometimes turbines have to be moved to different locations, you know, based on the sun and all those sorts of things as well. So, but it appears that a half a mile half a mile setback would allow us to still build a project and include Wells County in it.
And then I guess the other thing I want to know is this icing thing that's been claimed. Obviously, we live in North Dakota, there's going to be ice. But I've never heard of this. I would like you to address that.
Well, I mean, obviously they ice, right? But when we have this project built, you know, we're also going to have a shop where everything is, all of the turbines are able to be controlled from there. And, you know, if we have weather events such that icing happens on these things, we can shut them off, you know, which is typically what would happen. And the landowners are being paid on the megawatt nameplate capacity, so shutting them off for a couple of days to let that ice get off them, you know, once the sun starts shining, it's going to melt off of these things, even if it's cold outside, right? We can start turning them, break them so that they're not spinning at regular speed, so that the ice can coat off them. Now, that's not to say that that's always going to happen 100% of the time. You know, you're going to have issues, but again, I mean, if the setback is a half a mile and we're 1.5 times the tip height, maybe, or 1.1 times the tip height from a road, you know, that's more than the 400 feet number that was mentioned for a piece of ice flying off of there.
The turbines that you're proposing, how high?
They'll be just under 700 feet at tip height. So if you stood a blade all the way up.
Do you have any other wind farms in North Dakota?
We don't have any that we've built. We're developing three other ones in different phases of development.
What have you done to address the decommissioning costs at the end of this project?
Depending on, typically, if there's an ordinance like the one you shared, you know, the standard process is you have a third-party somebody who looks at the economics and says, okay, in 30 years or 40 years or 50 years or whatever, it's going to cost X amount of dollars to tear this thing out, right? And whatever that dollar amount is, then there's a bond, as you suggested. There's a bond, in most cases, there's a bond that's required. Oftentimes, it's not fully funded in year one.